I'll give it to you straight, Tom. My water broke around 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, okay, this is a problem. But I also thought, well, this isn't happening anytime soon. So that's fine. I'm just gonna not worry about it too much. And I think I shot them like a message, like, hey, so I got like an office visit. And what I potentially downplayed it to the clinic because I don't think I said my water broke. I was like, I think I need to come in. Um, so then they scheduled me for, I think, one or two. And so I
Mm.
had shot off that message of like, hey, I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna go for an appointment around 2. So I just want to let you know it's possible I won't cover Raw because Raw start for 5 p.m. for me. But like I can get some news articles in before. It's okay, like don't worry, kind of a thing. And it was Andy who told me, no, you are not writing news articles.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back for another video. This time, I'm joined by Amanda Savage from Wrestletalk. So welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so exciting to talk to you.
You too. So if we take this back to the beginning, where do you just first discover wrestling, but as a fan?
Yeah, I have pretty early memories of being like very small and being frightened of something in my bedroom as a little girl. And I remember my parents giving me one of those, oh, what are they called? They're called like pillow pals. They were like,
Wrestling
there was
buddies?
a, yeah, wrestling buddies, I suppose. Yeah, like I'm certainly dating myself and by sharing that I got one of those as a small child, but that was sort of my like that was my defender as a little child. If I was scared at night, it was like, no, you can't. Nothing can happen to you because the Hulk's here. So it was. I actually don't remember which. I don't know which one I had. I think there was a couple different choices. So my mom. I remember my mom was a big Randy Savage fan when I was a little girl. She thought he was handsome. So that was that. If that was a choice, that probably would have been the one she picked. But I have more conscious memories of like choosing to watch wrestling when I'm a little older, probably in like junior high, kind of that that sort of return of the Attitude Era renaissance of
Mm.
wrestling, sort of right where things got kind of mainstream popular is where I popped back in again.
Mm. So before we go into the Attitude Era bit, you talked about there your mum being a wrestling fan. Was it something that she encouraged you to watch, or was it sort of like a she's sitting watching this, I'm gonna watch it as well?
I've talked about that recently, trying to figure it out for like my own kids because I think that they are potentially consuming a lot of accidental wrestling media. So like, am I doing this consciously? Like, what is this about? But yeah, I think they were watching it, so I was watching it as they were watching it. I also think we live in such a different time now, but like when when I was little, it was like there wasn't a device to give your kid or anything. There wasn't like an iPad
Mm.
option. So if they were watching wrestling on TV, I was watching wrestling on TV. So I imagine it was something along the lines of that. I don't remember actively being like, as a little girl, being like, I love this. I think that when I was older and more like a teen, I was actively encouraged because my dad enjoyed watching it. So it was something like we did together and we could play video games together. And it was kind of something that we shared in that way. So I was never discouraged. I do know that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. You talked about the us living in a different time and your own kids now consuming a lot of accidental wrestling. What has been a moment that maybe they've seen that you're like, avert your eyes, you shouldn't be seeing this?
Oh man, I honestly, what was the I'm bad with match names. I'm super bad with when things happen, but I have very concrete memories. So when is Eddie Kingston holding the like gasoline
Mm.
can and is like
Anarchy in the
stumbling back out?
arena.
Okay, Anarchy in the Arena. I have a vivid memory of I'm writing because I'm covering the show. But at that time, we were living in an apartment. So what I had done was I think I bought it on Bleach Report and was casting it to the TV because we didn't have cable in that apartment. Like it wasn't
Mm,
worth setting up a cable. Anyway, so it was sort of like one of those mommy's watching this, we're all watching this situations. And they were bopping around doing their own thing. They were with my husband. I mean, he was taking care of them. But at the time, I mean, she's 6 months old, perhaps, my daughter. My son's like three. And I was in the middle, like kind of that match that started building for me, where I was like, oh, wait a second. And then when Eddie came back out, I was so jubilant. Like I was so pumped on it. And I remember my husband had already kind of ushered them out that I almost had missed. Like they were already in our bedroom rather than in the living room. So they weren't even watching that match. But I was like, yay. And I looked over and my husband was holding my daughter and he kind of was like, we're not watching this anymore.
mhm,
So they don't get to watch AEW. The specific like if there's yeah, we don't have AEW on as a family. I don't think they watch a ton of WWE, but if there's like clips or something on YouTube, sometimes they'll something will pop up and I don't like jump to turn it off. Like,
mm.
but yeah, that's kind of when you have kids and you have a partner, you get to co-parent on that, and that's a line that he's drawn where he thinks that that one's like maybe a little too far, which certainly at their ages it is too far. Sometimes I feel like it's too far for mommy, so like I get that for sure, but yeah, so they do consume. I think um my husband doesn't watch wrestling really, but he also will kind of accidentally consume media, but he's sort of secretly become very um, he knows like when Ethan Page's toy hunts come out, like he follows that, like he knows when the premiere time is. Like he likes Toy Hunt, he likes Danhausen. There's someone else's vlog that he watched. I mean, we used to always watch Major Figure podcasts
Mm.
together back in the day when they were just like figure hunting when they still were with WJ. So that's something that like that random ancillary media, it's not the matches, but it's kind of stuff that has to do with wrestling, ends up playing for the family probably more than we maybe notice. So that's, look at this. Learning about my motherhood during this chat. That's
Mm.
good. You're
That's
pulling things
quite
out of me.
that's quite cool though. So you brought up there, obviously you were covering a show for Wrestle Talk. So how do you first discover Wrestle Talk, but as a fan before we get into working for them?
Yeah, just ooh, so I think I had kind of just like watched random news videos in the past. I don't remember, they weren't unfamiliar to me. But I think when some of the folks left What Culture to start Cultaholic, and there was that few months of lag time in between where um, there wasn't a Ross video to watch. I used to watch, I mean, I was a big back in the day, like I watched all of those. I just I don't always watch a lot of wrestling stuff now because it stopped being the fun thing that you watch after work when it is work, right? But
Yeah.
um, back then, it was something that was one of my favorites. So when there was kind of a lull, there wasn't that content coming out. I think I discovered Wrestletalk more, and then once it kind of in the becomes actually when I was pregnant with my son, with both pregnancies, I was very ill. I just have extremely bad hyperemesis. Gravidurium is what the title of the diagnosis is, but basically it's just some women experience a few weeks of morning sickness. And for certain times of the day, just for my pregnancies, I experienced constant morning sickness for the entire 9 months. So there wasn't ever really a break. Like, I would be taking my medication and waiting for something to be happening would be like 5 a.m. my time is when the news
Mm.
video comes out. So what time is that for you guys? 9
Uh, it's
p.m.?
9.
No, 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 9. Yeah. I'm so bad with that. I have to
So
check
am
the clock
I.
every single
I'm
time.
so
Yeah, I know
bad.
it's really bad. But I know for me it comes out at 5 a.m. So it was 5 a.m. I always would wake up in the middle of the night, I'd be so sick. But while I'm sitting around waiting for my they give you there's like a medication that you can take, anti-nausea aren't working right away. You have to wait a while. And so it became kind of, and I would watch the news video while I was waiting for my medication to kick in. And it just really was great to distract me from, I mean, frankly, it's throwing up. I mean, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
it would distract me from the continuous cycle that I was in. And so that was when it kind of became part of listening to the podcast later. That was before I was born in the early 2019. So like 2018.
Mm,
Um, like it was when it was sort of just Luke and Ollie on screen. Because I remember like when Lori came and Pete came and things like that. So yeah, it's been a while actually, but
mm.
yeah.
You talked about the remembering when different presenters would come in. So who was the presenter you most, and you talked about the videos helping you through harder times
Yeah.
and pregnancy. So who was the presenter you gravitated to the most when it came to Wrestle Talk?
I think it's especially when I was sick and waking up, it was always it was both Luke and Ollie. They had a really great sense of humor, and it was a time that I wasn't necessarily following wrestling super closely. So I think that's a little bit different too, because if you're consuming a ton of the wrestling yourself and then you're watching folks talk about it, it can be, you might have a difference of opinion or you might have interpreted something differently. But at that time, I wasn't really watching the shows. So it was just like I was there for the jokes and I was getting caught up with what was happening through the reviews and things. But I really, yeah, it was like, I think when you kind of come to enjoy something at like a very specific time in life, you end up then getting really warm memories for each piece of it. So I
Mm,
would say, I think, I don't want to divert your topic stream at all, but I think people sometimes want me to have really cool stories about like Ollie or like tell me something fun about Adam. And like the writers are sort of very separate. It's not that I mean, it's everyone in the same um, communication channels and things,
yeah.
but it's not that I necessarily have, I mean, like, I don't have any hilarious behind the scenes Wrestle Talk stories about anyone individually, but I was incredibly encouraged that none of my warm regard has changed. So, like, the way that I felt about each of them kind of as a fan when I was like, oh, this is, my guy that I watched the news, each of those kind of individual connections or relationships, I haven't felt that any of them have changed at all. If anything, it's made me kind of, I have a deeper or more appreciation for folks when you kind of, I mean, parasocially know them, right? We,
Yeah.
people online and you kind of, but yeah. So well, I don't have any exciting stories about any of the presenters. I can reassure anyone who's spent any amount of time being a fan of Wrestle Talk that like if the reading is lovely to you, like they are genuinely that lovely. They're very
Mm,
nice people, everybody across the board. So that's
that's
something that
cool.
you don't always know, right? Like you're not so sure.
Definitely
So
not.
yeah,
No.
I've had a I've had a super positive experience um and there's no reason for me to be there, if that makes any sense, right? Like um yeah, yeah, great group of people.
I understand what you're saying completely. So
Yeah.
we talked about a bit how you discovered them as a fan and what great people they are, but how did you end up going, I'm now gonna start writing for these good folks?
Yeah, so I was when after my son was born, he was already a few months old. I was staying at home most of the time. I went back to social work part-time, so I worked like 3 days a week back in a hospital setting, and it was fine, but it certainly was not something that I felt very strongly about necessarily. Um, yeah, that's like its own whole conversation about the career you think you might want versus once you're already kind of living life and functioning in the real world of what that actually looks like day to day. So yeah, sending discharge packets, like faxing 25 pages to 15 different nursing homes was not the heartbeat of my passion, right? Like it was
No.
not fun. So no, it wasn't the best. So I was doing it and it was good, made part-time bucks, right? But I was looking for what is something that I can gain experience in, but that I feel like is something that is maybe a little more aligned with the future that could see me staying at home. And this is pre-COVID, so this was when folks don't work from home really. But
Yeah.
what could I get experience in that could lead to maybe something that I could stay home? So it was the end of one of the news videos. They were looking for YouTube moderators, and I honestly didn't even know what that meant. I Googled it. It sounded kind of scary if you worked for YouTube, but Wrestletalk didn't sound like I didn't think there would be anything that would be too scandalizing for me. Like when you're kind of when you've been a social worker at a public health hospital, you kind of, have been around the block a little bit with
Yeah, I
things.
know what
So
you mean.
I didn't think that Wrestle Talk would have something that would trigger or traumatize me any more than anything had professionally. So it just seemed like, okay, that's fun. I can do that. So I just sent an email and it really wasn't it was just like, let's try this and see. And I got a response. And then I got an email from Pete. And then I was a moderator. And then I did that for years, like I think two years before I started writing. And one day on the kind of communication board for the mods, it was like, does anyone have any experience writing? And something that I used to do for fun when I was in college, kind of trying to choose a track between social work and trying to be a professional writer
Mm.
was would like blend the two. So I was working in a nursing home, and when anytime someone had a centennial birthday, like 100th birthday, or sometimes even 95th, the local little newspaper would let me submit an article about the person.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I had some random bylines, like I had something to show, like, hey, I can write something, right? And so I just kind of on a genuine lark. I think it was November, so I was 8 months pregnant at the time with my daughter. And I just said like, hey, I can write. Can I write? And then I did like a month-long trial. And then yeah, I was like, do you want to keep doing this? And like, yeah, I do. And then every week since then I keep doing it and it's been really great. Yeah.
That's really cool. How true is this story that I did hear or find in my research that you were basically in labor but still wanted to write? How true is that story?
Um, that story is partially true in that um, with my son, it was a really long, like laboring process. Like the amount of time that I was there was long. And I felt for my daughter, like, why do I need to go sit in a hospital for all these hours and hours? I know when this is going to really happen. I don't need to go to the hospital right away. And that's kind of just like it's probably more about the person that I am than, I don't know why really. But so yeah, my shift was scheduled to start at like noon. I had a doctor's appointment. So essentially, I mean, I'll give it to you straight, Tom. My water broke around 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, okay, this is a problem. But I also thought, well, this isn't happening anytime soon. So that's fine. I'm just gonna not worry about it too much. And I think I shot them like a message, like, hey, so I got like an office visit. And what I potentially downplayed it to the clinic because I don't think I said my water broke. I was like, I think I need to come in. Um, so then they scheduled me for, I think, one or two. And so
Mm.
I had shot off that message of like, hey, I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna go for an appointment around 2. So I just want to let you know it's possible I won't cover Raw because Raw start for 5 p.m. for me. But like I can get some news articles in before. It's okay, like don't worry, kind of a thing. And it was Andy who told me, no, you are not writing news articles from 12 to 2 until your appointment. You go ahead and have a baby, girl, and we'll see you later. And so yeah, I just went and had a baby instead. And then truthfully, the amount of time, like I don't think any of them were comfortable with the amount of time I wanted to take. Like they were like, no, you need to take time. But instead, like she was born on Monday and on Tuesday, by like the middle of NXT, I was like, hey, I can jump in. I can do live. And then it was like, no. So I got shut down. I think I did
I
like I
like
did
that.
one live section of NXT and like it would be curious. I'd be curious to look it up. So the NXT live coverage from January 11th,
Oh
2022
wow.
is part of me getting right home from the hospital and trying to demand to work, and then them going, no, 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 you're not finishing the show. And then, but I did Dynamite the next day. So
Wow.
yeah, and I can't remember if that's the Dynamite or if it's the following week where it's either that 13th, January 13th, or January 19th. The following week was my husband's birthday. And one of those two is like that Cody promo, like the last Cody promo in AEW, like so what do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that, the ladders um, and that was, yeah. So I don't remember if I had a 2 day old baby or if I had a 1 week old baby, but I do know for that Cody promo, I had like 7 people in my house, you know, coming. It's either my husband's birthday or a baby is born. I'm not, or both. I mean, really a week out. So it was a joyful occasion. And instead, I'm like hiding at an island, like trying to type and trying to follow what's going
Oh
on. And
wow.
honestly, if you watch that promo from the perspective of like trying to make a linear story out of it, of like processing what you're hearing and trying to pull out, and like I couldn't figure out what I was hearing. And it was just like, wait, he's saying goodbye, isn't he? Is he saying goodbye? Like, is
Mm.
he saying what? And it was like everyone around me is just like living life. And I'm like being a creep in the corner with my little professional wrestling gig. But it was, it's important stuff. So yeah, it
That's
was,
brilliant. That's
yeah,
brilliant though. How did obviously when you were pregnant the second time, if I understand this correctly, you're working for WrestleTalk. So
yeah,
you talked about the during your first pregnancy, WrestleTalk really helping you from like a
yeah.
fan perspective. So how did that change during your second pregnancy? Could you still watch them as a fan and sort of use them as a distraction?
Yeah, I was still back in like, I was watched a fair amount of Wrestletalk in the beginning of my pregnancy because I don't start being in a like an employee or like working more like day to day, like this is what I do every day until like the end. So I'm like 8 months pregnant. But the
Oh,
beginning
my
when
bad.
I
I
sort of
misunderstood.
no, it's how would you remember that? That makes no sense. But so yeah, no worries. But like I was I was watching it for distraction. I would say in my second pregnancy, the thing that I would really watch that would distract me was if you just type and like this would be my go-to. If you just type Kenny Omega funny compilation into like any search engine, any YouTube situation, there will be like some pretty amusing stuff. And then you'll also see some amazing wrestling where you're like, whoa, what? Because, it's like usually mixed together. It's not just kind of backstage bits. But I watched a lot of Being the Elite, like old BTE was my thing kind of the second time
Ooh.
around with her. I don't really know why that is. Like I don't know if there was I don't know. But that was my other wrestling thing. And then something I got really into was like vintage promos. So I will watch, you can literally distract me for an unlimited amount of time by playing not just the rock vintage, like vintage, right? Like the rock, like some really great classic rock ones, but
Mm.
I'm talking like Ric Flair. I'll get very
Oh, so
distracted
good
by
promos,
those.
not like so bad they're good
Right.
promos.
Yes. Or like there's an Instagram like out of context Dusty. I'll just like sit there
Oh, I gotta
forever.
find that when we
Just
finish this.
I'll watch Dusty promos forever. And and it'll also be like it's not even like you're watching the whole thing. It's like 20 seconds. So
Mm.
you just it's good. It's good stuff. So that was the good S word that got me through my second pregnancy for sure. Yeah, I'm still watching Wrestle Talk, but I I didn't I wasn't watching wrestling as heavily. So it was a kind of a steep learning curve, I would say, when I first started, because covering like every live show, you kind of I didn't cover every show at the beginning at all. But now like as I'm kind of just I feel like I'm new again. Like I'm kind of off the deep end of like Ring of Honor. A lot of the New Japan context I don't always have. So it's like
Mm.
if you read an article from me, I probably had to deep dive in a way that someone else maybe just pulled it from their brain. So if it sounds sometimes like, oh, this is like a book report at the end of this, it's because I went and I figured it out, and
Mm.
now
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
happily reporting back everything I learned about AAA because I just didn't know before. But now here we go. Yeah. So
You talked you talked about there maybe not knowing as much as say other fans. How do you feel like that helps you with your writing? But then how do you feel like that hinders you with your writing in some cases?
I think it's helpful in that I'm looking at a lot of stuff from a news perspective. It's in the moment, it's like what's happening right now. So I can comprehend what's happening and spit it back out. And then some of that deeper context is some of what sometimes I'll go back and figure out a little bit more about what that meant, if that makes any sense, and then try to
Yeah,
add a bit so that so sort of in my goal at the end of it, and this sounds weird, but like the way that the internet works, I don't really understand what gets picked up and shuffled around and what's an ad and what's on what later. So in my mind, I think of it as like someone is at their kid's swimming lesson on cosmopolitan.com and saw at the bottom like WWE stars get married. If they click that and it's something that I've written, I want them to know what the heck. Like I want it to still read like an article for a stranger, not necessarily an article for
a
someone who already
traditional
has like
wrestling
deep,
fan.
intricate knowledge of wrestling. So um, and sometimes you can't do that because there's like things that I mean, um, what what is the significance of the Great Muda? I can't synthesize that into a sentence for like my next door neighbor to understand, other than like, right, but you can make the words big enough that someone understands. Like this is
Mm.
decades of a career. This is did it, like there's ways to make that happen. But I think when there's people that are extremely like culturally or I guess within this culture, like there's historically significant becomes a little bit more tricky. But um, yeah, I definitely don't. I would be the first to admit I don't think I have the depth of knowledge of a lot of the fans. I think a lot of the fans on Twitter for sure. There's people who can recall like just the depth of knowledge is extreme, and that's really cool. And I think that that's something that is really amazing. Like
Mm.
I'm never one. I'm never one for like an ego. Like I do get sometimes people will tweet at me like you messed this up or you know what you're talking about, and most of the time I'll fix it. Like I don't think I've ever said no. Like the one that always sticks out is that I accidentally referred to oh I can't say it Worcester, Massachusetts.
It was Star?
That it's nowhere. Worcester, it's not in Boston. And I got the cities mixed up and I was writing, I think
Oof.
it was a dynamite. And I think I wrote Boston. And a woman got really mad and was like, it is not Boston. It is Worcester. It is a different city. And then my husband has family from the East Coast. And I said, oh, I screwed this up. And I told him what I did. And he's like, oh, no, they won't like that. Like, yeah, you
Mm.
got to fix it. So I'll fix it. If you see something I did wrong, let me know on Twitter. I will definitely fix it. Because, yeah,
You
my depth of knowledge is not immense, but I always try to make sure I'm not putting anything that's not accurate, like I try to do my diligence. So
yeah.
if I've looked something up, probably is correct, but
Mm.
you know,
You talked about people coming at you online for things that might be considered little mistakes. What have you put in place to sort of not not to not have to deal with the trolls, but sort of so the trolls don't affect you?
yeah, I think that um I hope saying this doesn't activate something, but I think I have had it really good. I guess, like I feel that I
Mm.
haven't been picked on too much. I was very concerned about that, like before, and perhaps it was because of like where I was at in my pregnancy, but I remember when I was really talking to my family about, do I really want to do this? And knowing that it had a little bit of an online presence aspect, like not so much, because the writers can be, I think we're as known as we want to be known, right? So like
Sorry
I'm
about
talking
that.
to you, but if
As in,
you wanted to talk to someone else, then like maybe they'd say no and they wouldn't feel comfortable. So it's like
yeah.
there's a little bit of, but I didn't um I mean, I'll just be honest, the time period, it was something that people were being really nasty for no reason to Denise Salcedo online I mean, I think they're nasty to her all the time, honestly, but it was when I first started writing and kind of thinking about what this could look like for me in the future. Um, it was just like an uptick of people being really abusive towards her. And it did have that had a factor in whether or not it was something I wanted to pursue because I didn't know like my picture's going to be on there. I don't want him to be mean to me. And like, I know my depth of knowledge isn't the same as other wrestling fans. And um, yeah, it was like a consideration that has not ever been a consideration in my jobs before. I've never applied for a job and been worried about getting like bullied or harassed
Hmm.
about it. Right. So that was kind of weird. Um, and just as like a woman, I think sometimes, I mean, I'm for sure the only, I'm not, I'm actually not positive about that. Um, I'm one of the only women writers for our website, at least. And I think that, um, at least from the news writing aspect, I think that day to day grind kind of a slog is something that there's like this handful of people that are doing that. And I don't find them to typically be like the like not the center of attention folks. And so I
Yeah.
try to walk that line because I'm a little chatty and I'm a little bubbly and like I can be a little extra. So I try not to be too annoying during like shows and things. But yeah, it's like something that I actually think about because I don't like, oh, maybe I tweeted too many times during Dynamite. That might be annoying. I don't want someone to call me annoying. Like I think about it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say too terribly lot. I think folks have been super kind to me so far. I haven't had any issue, but I do see some of the stuff that goes on, and I don't know how some folks handle it with the grace they handle it. I guess it's a lot.
Hmm. I
People
know
can be
what you
very nasty.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. I understand what you mean completely. So you talked about there before you got the gig writing, you weren't
Mhm.
really keeping up to date with a lot of current products. So what is the product now that you're like, oh, I get to write about this today. This is going to be fun.
You know, um, I have developed a real love for NXT.
Okay.
Where like NXT is a funny show to me. Like it is a good show. Um, if you're here for just wrestling, if you're like so I guess in a week, what I do is because of the times that I work, like the evening time. So like is it okay if I say what day it is?
Well,
Today's,
yeah, but this isn't going to air for a while. I'll tell you
no,
that.
no, no. So it's wow. So it doesn't matter. Okay, good. So like Monday is Raw, right? And then there's Tuesday NXT, Wednesday's Dynamite, now Thursday's Ring of Honor, Friday is SmackDown and Rampage. And so I watch all of those like live. So like while they're happening. And then I will usually circle back to Impact. Like I think
Okay.
I've gotten in the habit of watching a lot of Impact more by clip than by actual sitting down for the full 2 hours. Before Ring of Honor, I would have Impact on in the background while I'm still doing other news stuff. So um, I still do get excited about like the big pay-per-views. I think those are still very exciting for me. It's a long day. Like it's
Hmm.
a long day. And then last year
I'm
was my
just going to
first
resist the urge
WrestleMania.
to say that we start at 1 a.m. in the UK, but that is a whole nother
Oh yeah,
conversation.
no, 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 no. It's a whole different ball game for you guys. I can't even imagine what that would feel like. Because I'm like griping about it, but it's on a normal
I
time
suppose
schedule
it's the
for
same
me.
for like
Yeah.
Japan shows for you guys.
I mean, yeah, I don't think, yeah, I just, oof, no, I'm constantly amazed at my colleagues' dedication. I think it's super cool that they're up and watching it live as well, because a lot of times they're watching it too. I mean, they're not like writing it, but they'll still like send me little messages and stuff. And um, that is like dedication. That is something else.
Mm.
I'm not sure if these yeah, if it was not like a super sweet time for me to do it, I'm not sure I would always want to get up at like, yeah, 1 a.m. to watch NXT. But I do yeah, I think you have to kind of something try to find something to look forward to in all of them though. Because I this is like my for fun job. Like I know what I went to grad school for, and I know how that makes me feel every day if I'm doing that full time. So this I try to have like ultimate gratitude at all times because even if I'm really bored during a match or like even if something is um I'm still not the same person as I was before Brawl Out. Let me tell
Mm.
you, that was a very long day. I think, was that the day there was also an NXT pay-per-view right before All Out?
I think so.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
It was
I don't
something that it
remember
was like an
either.
obscenely long day. And we kind of thought it was over. And so I remember sitting down and just feeling like, okay, let me breathe a sigh of relief as CM Punk starts. And it was not a sigh of relief. Like my day was
No,
not done. My day was not. I like sort of like having a child. Like I don't feel like that day's ever ended. Like have I ever stopped writing about CM Punk from that moment forward? Like I don't remember someone taking up so much space in my brain before that. But like, yeah, some of the days will just be. WrestleMania last year was my first WrestleMania, and that was something that was incredibly fun. It was extremely it's confusing to tell your family, like, no, I'm unavailable for 12 hours because it is WrestleMania one. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a
oh,
weird
totally.
thing to,
Like
I'm very busy, I'm very important.
explaining to my family that I'm doing this is still something that, not that I don't enjoy this. Please
Right.
don't take it that way.
No,
But
but
it's
like,
like
what? Yeah,
trying to explain something like that to them. It's like, what?
you're doing what? Like, why are you doing that? So, that was, yeah, WrestleMania has been, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, always like a pay-per-view. I just think I have a like a slight twitch that's never going to go away. Like a scrum is, I'm not, yeah, that wasn't the question. You didn't ask me what I'm not looking forward to covering. Those
No, no.
scrums scare me now.
I
Those
can
ones are,
imagine.
you never know what you're going to get now. You know, I didn't ever think that was going to be the situation. So, yeah, that was a wild day for sure.
You talked about there always being grateful because this is like your fun job. So are you grateful for the opportunities that Wrestle has given you?
Oh my gosh, so much so. And it totally ties back to that kind of like, I have no reason to be here. I'm not anyone's family member, you know, like I'm not anyone's friend. Like I was a mod for a bit, but I definitely think that they've gone above and beyond to be super kind to me and super helpful and also um helping to make me a better writer. Like I can guarantee that anything that I write across the board today is probably better than a year or so ago because I look at things from a little different perspective.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm super grateful. Yeah, we call my paycheck Andy bucks in my house. The kids I used to tell them, well, before my daughter was born, I told my son that Luke and Ollie sent him a present every month. That was like the thing that I would say to explain
Aww.
why I was doing this. I would say, like, oh yeah, Luke and Ollie, they sent you this. And then so as it's gotten deeper and deeper, um, you know, my son doesn't connect to like Andy as much. My daughter like loves Andy. So if
Aww.
Andy's on the news a day or if Andy's up there, so she's an Andy gal. But yeah, so we call my paycheck now. Those are my Andy bucks. So sometimes when we're doing something fun, I'll just remind them that we're doing it. You know, Luke and Ollie are paying for this. So like it just makes it kind of funny and cute. And he got oh my gosh, he got so excited. We had kind of like like a big meeting. Like it was the first time I think I had been on Zoom with everybody too. Like I don't think I've ever been in a meeting with that many people. And luckily, like I guess just the way I had my phone or something, like I didn't see that many people, so I wasn't super stressed out the entire time. But as it clicked through, I like saw everyone as the cameras were turning off, and I was like, oh my God, everyone, like that was everyone. It was a
Oh
lot.
wow.
But yeah, but at the end of the like kind of the end of the meeting, like wrapping up, my son had been like really knocking at the door, and I ended up letting him in, and he sat on my lap. And so right at the end, he saw Luke and Ollie wave, and oh my goodness, he was like, Luke, Ollie, and Cody Rhodes are, and then
I've
like
been
anything
waiting to
Star
do
Wars and
this to
Pokemon,
you,
but like
but I
that,
really wanted to go something something Cody Rhodes to you. I'm so
oh
sorry.
my God, something Cody Rhodes, it's back around again, Tom. It's
Mm.
something Cody Rhodes season. My
It is.
husband, man, oh, it's back around again. He has a new one where if I troll if he's getting too annoyed with me because I something Cody Rhodes constantly, he'll bust out, what is it? Is it Rhythm of the Night? There's something like really annoying that's like a
Mm.
90s. Oh,
It's
Pump
not
Up
the
the
Rick.
Jam.
Is it the Rick roll from?
He'll No, he'll just out of nowhere go, pump up the jam, pump it up, but
Oh
then
no.
stop.
I've got to go to
And you
bed
can't
after this. That's
stop.
gonna be in my head
I
now.
know. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Oh, I did it to you. No, but you can't
Oops.
stop after that. So like, and then your head will continue, and then you get to the yeah. No, you're bad. You're down the hole. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, but that he's almost so that just the pump up the jam has almost broken me of my something Cody Rhodes, but it'll never stop.
That's
It'll never
brilliant.
stop.
But as we look at wrapping this up, because I do want to be respectful of your time, we are going to do a very quick segment that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before know this is where I ask my guests questions they might get asked on social media quite regularly, such as their favorite match, favorite pay per view, favorite wrestler's theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, questions that now Amanda will have a place to be like, I've answered this. Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
I still think Hell in a Cell, 99,
Mm.
Mankind, Undertaker. I think that was the one. And I'm hoping last time before we spoke, I Googled it to make sure I wasn't saying the wrong thing, but that was like a very magical moment as a child. Or even now, like when you see that, you think, oh my gosh, is he alive? Like and it feels weird to have that level of violence sort of be like a magical moment as a
I know what
child.
you
But I
mean,
think
though.
that it's sort of like totally encapsulates for me that feeling of where you're not quite sure what's real. Like kind of what is the beauty of professional wrestling? Like what is the beauty of that
Mm.
confusion around what was real, what wasn't. It's all real. We saw it, but is someone really hurt or what does that look like? So yeah, I think that's still my favorite.
Favorite pay per view?
Mm, I don't want to give a cheesy answer,
That's
but
fine.
Royal Rumble in 2019. I was actually like I checked into the hospital to give birth to my son on Friday night, and we were like, don't try to be the first entrant to the Rumble, and we were like joking the entire time. And he did not end up being born until Sunday. So I think that one still holds a funny place for me because I had a newborn baby.
I'm just
My
picturing you
husband
on
was
gas and air watching a rumble.
Honestly, my husband was asleep. I had a newborn baby. I had my cell phone and I was watching it. And I remember one of the nurses coming in and I was like kind of embarrassed almost. And she's like, what you watching? Because, like, you really get into this. Like, what is it? And I like turned it around. Yeah, Royal Rumble 2019. I don't know which like number that is, but yeah, 2019 Rumble.
I
That's
don't
always a
know
little
either,
soft place in
but
my heart.
I know the pay per view you're talking about. Favorite wrestler's theme?
Oh, oh my gosh. Well, I mean, Kingdom notwithstanding, because clearly nothing is ever going to be as good to me as that. The other one that I like to be super annoying about constantly, so that's why I enjoy is Nikki Bella's theme song. So like the number of times a day, I'll just for no, I mean not no reason, but it wasn't necessary to sing "You Can Look But You Can't Touch," but I just wanted to. So
That's
like if
fun.
I make something good, I'll try to like give it to my family, but then I'll tell them they can't touch it. You know, it's just, like I'm a pretty cheesy person, so I would say
That's quite
the
funny
Nikki
though.
Bella is a good one. Yeah. Oh, you know who has the best too is the Usos. Just the Usos.
Day one
That
ish, or
will
has that
like pump up.
changed?
Yes. Okay. Well, okay. The other one was good too, but just this like latest one, the day one ish, that's a good one.
Mm.
That's a banger. That'll get you pumped up for whatever you're trying to do in your life.
You know what I love, and I shouldn't talk about me, I do apologize, but there's a segment on Raw. I can't remember what Raw it is, but they come out with microphones singing to it. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yeah. No, they do good at it.
That was
I would
really
watch a concert
good.
of the Usos.
So
So
would I.
good. Yes. Yes.
Favorite tag team.
Oh, this is where I won't forget to say the Bella Twins. I think that I feel you can make this the little clip thingy, but it's okay. I know I shouldn't say this out loud and I shouldn't say it on tape, but I think that the way that people feel about CM Punk is how I feel about the Bella Twins.
Okay.
I feel like formative to my fandom. I will ride for them no matter what they do. Like, it doesn't matter. I'll buy the shampoo. Yes, I did. I'll get some Birdie B sweatshirts. Yes, I did. Whatever it is, I'm there forever.
Okay.
Let's get some wine. It's good.
This is why I love doing this show, because you never get the same answer, or you get different perspectives, which I think is really cool. And then as we wrap this up, who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
All the time. Despite the fact that I've become like such a granny now and I'm getting kind of like, ugh. The Fork was the one that I'm like, oh, Fork, man. But I have been, I used to love Dean Ambrose.
Mm.
I still love Mox. Like that's been
Oh
very
no,
linear.
I love
Um,
Mox, but his match the other week, as we're recording this,
yeah,
too far, in my personal
right.
opinion.
Right. So as I'm saying, like I love Mox, I'm also like, oh, his recent works were not quite for me. Only because I think I'm just like, yeah, I'm just a little squeamish. Like it's not them, it's
How
me for
much of
sure. Like
having
I
kids
just
do you think that
no.
changed you in that sense? Could you have watched that stuff before your kids were?
Um, Part of it is the kids. I think part of it for me is just that because I've worked in so many healthcare settings, like
Ah,
I shared an office with an infection control nurse for years. And so like when I say that seeing someone lick someone else's blood makes me like
oh,
horrified to the core of my being, I am being totally honest. Like this is not feigned criticism. Like this, some people are like, oh, pearl clutching. Like, no, for me, it's just because I used to stare at those bloodborne pathogen posters all day. So like I know how many diseases are in there. It's just like it's too much. It's too much. It's too much.
mm,
But yeah, I think being a mom is part of it too. Because you'd really I yeah, yeah. MJF to me that every time that's like I over identify my son. Like I don't know why I do this, but like I'm like, well, like, there's something about him that makes me like feel in that mom way.
mm.
And so just that Iron Man match of him and Brian Danielson, who I've also loved for years, that the combination of those two were like this is so much for me. I feel like my heart is breaking. This is supposed to be more fun than this, but I'm like really sad. And that's not, that's not
Yeah.
everyone's reaction. That's like a very specific, and that's why, it takes all people to run the ship. And I guess Wrestletalk has a nice helping mom there. So that's good.
To be honest, I think that's a beautiful way to end this conversation. But before we do, Amanda, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general, and with writing in your case. We're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very weird way. So what is one piece of content you want to be remembered for? And then what is one that you're like, if the powers that be could get rid of that, I would appreciate it.
Oh, I think they're the same piece of media that I was super proud of and is very embarrassing is that I was trying really hard to like get over a concept of fashion related features where I was like, this could get popular. Like people want to look at the costuming. Like people like attire. Like we can do this. And so I think um I tried one to rank Alexa Bliss's WrestleMania looks.
Mm.
And I think and that's like never on the internet. Like that didn't get published. That got saved as draft and deleted because it was it was really difficult for me to talk about it without just being like super complimentary, but I also didn't want to be saying anything negative. So it was like very confusing. Um, just ended up being like 10 pages of being like, this shirt or look at it, so cute. Like another, she's so pretty. And it was just like, I couldn't figure out the right voice for it, right? Because
Mm.
yeah, it was just kind of a weird one. But in a similar vein, the one that I actually am kind of proud of is I did get a whole feature snuck in during madness around whether or not Cody might appear before WrestleMania. Um, I had some looks. I think it was either 10 or 11, but the title is like something iconic looks that Cody Rhodes could resurrect in WWE. And then there were no looks resurrected. He just came there as
Oh dear.
AEW Cody and it's perfect and it works. But there were like, I had very warm feelings towards dashing Cody Rhodes. I thought that was very funny and I thought that could be funny now. But yeah, no, he's just regular Cody. It's fine for me. But there is a whole feature where I tried to come up with who else he could be, and none of them are that. Yeah.
Fair enough. So as we wrap this up, where can the good people find you and or your content?
Yeah. Go to wrestletalk.com for all the latest wrestling news. Especially if there's a show going on, if you see my little smiling face there, it was me. And then Twitter is underscore Amanda Savage. Uh, yeah, I don't know what kind of quality content you're really getting, but I think I'm funny. So
I do
that's what
too.
matters, right?
So as we wrap
I'm
this
very
up,
cheesy.
yeah. So as we wrap this up, guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talk Trash. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talk Trash, and I will see you in the next interview. A goodbye now.